Hey, folks, welcome to bonus episode of SMX Insider. We're the Jasons, Wygant, and Thomas. It's been such a fun first half of Monster Energy AMA Supercross and the SMX World Championship. We're going to review it with what we think are the top 10 moments. I know people are probably going to disagree. There could be 20 or 30 easily, JT, that could fit this category. It's been that good.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year in a good way, right? We've had parity. We've seen things we would never expect. And really, when the gate drops, that's what you want. You want unpredictability, you want excitement, and you want people jumping out of their seats because they can't believe what they saw. And we got a lot of that this year.
Okay, so we're going to start this top 10 here. And the key is that some of these are big picture and some of these are small picture. I think in the big picture, having the MXGP world champion Jorge Prado try Supercross and be successful in, again, not the small picture, but he's going to be able to do this again in the future. It was not a yard sale. It was not a disaster. The results weren't amazing. But I think Prado coming over, trying it and liking it, and I think opening the door for a full-time Supercross season next year, to me, that's a big one.
Yeah, I think the key here was keeping expectations in check. He didn't grow up racing Supercross. This is a brand new dynamic for him going into 2024, and I think he approached it the right way. Swallow your pride, understand it's going to be a learning experience, and set yourself up for success down the line, and he did all of that. So I think coming back, if he does choose to come back in 2025, he'll take steps closer to where he wants to be. And speaking of taking steps to get to where they want to be, Triumph debuted in America in 2024, and they have been fantastic, grabbing hole shots, top 10 finishes in a highly competitive 250 class. I didn't know how this was going to pan out, Leach. I really was curious to see, because these teams have been spent so much time and effort developing these 250cc motorcycles, and these guys jumped in, are competitive right away.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Prado. It's not the number on paper at the end of the night. It's just, does this look like it's okay, or does it look like a disaster? Prado did not look like a disaster. The Triumph bike has not looked like a disaster. And maybe the most telling thing is, Jalek Swoll has nailed a bunch of great starts, and people are always so keen to look at these starts as the dyno. It's like the horsepower measure of the horsepower means everything 250 class. That bike appears to be fast. So the future appears to be bright for that brand. Awesome to have him here with us. And that kind of leads us into our next topic, which is 250 parity, East or West. The points have been close the entire time. We've had a bunch of different riders hold red plates, and also those unexpected things that you mentioned at the top of the show. It's been a pretty fun and hard to predict 250, both East and West.
Yeah, you look at the East and all the lead changes and just the devastating crash that Forkner went through. And then the West has been a battle from the initial gate drop. These guys have gone back and forth. Really never know whose weekend it's going to be. And that's really all you can ask for. We want to see competitiveness in these classes. Young guys, old guys really mixing it up and trying to battle for 250 supremacy. And a rider who departed all of this, who stepped away, got out of the foray of the 250s, but might be learning some lessons along the way here in the 450 class. You have to think about Jet Lawrence. And that San Diego incident with he and Jason Anderson, I think, was a significant point in his maturation process of learning, like, you don't want to poke the bear. You have to know who you can play with and who you can't. Namely, Jason Anderson and Justin Barcia. Just stay away from them. Don't engage with those two riders.
Yeah, it has certainly not been perfect like it was in Pro Motocross for Jet. There have been rookie lessons and bumps in the road. That Anderson won the arguments, and then he got booed the next week at Anaheim is probably the most symbolic. But overall, there have been ups and downs. They just haven't been so down that it knocked him out of the championship chase. But we're going to remember that Anderson one's probably going to be replayed for the next 10 years as Jet's career rolls on, as it wasn't quite perfect when he started it. And then part of that is the weather. It was a topic. It probably changed all of our expectations and even the data that we had. To have double mudders rounds 2 and 3, not only was it wild to watch, but I think it skewed a whole bunch of results as well.
Yeah, it's been a year of weather. We may be in for more. You think about the outdoor venues we still have left on this schedule. We could be talking about weather each and every weekend down the stretch, and it does play a role in these championships. It's impossible to say it hasn't impacted the points. Really, the Jet Lawrence struggles have been at weekends where weather has been a factor. So we'll have to see how this plays out. There's no way you can deny that it hasn't been one of the biggest stories in the first half of 2024. And speaking of big stories, how can you not talk about the win that Aaron Plessinger got in San Diego? And you think about how we all felt for him in Detroit, hoping he would find a way to get that win. And when he did in San Diego, I was so jealous of our own Will Christian grabbing that interview and all of the emotion and the celebration. And it was, I think, impossible to not be happy for him. The only distraction was really the Jet and Jason Anderson thing. But had they not been arguing with each other, I think even they would have been happy for AP in that moment.
I'm actually even happier for him now. When you're riding well, you've got to seize the opportunity and grab it, because Plessinger's still good right now in the second half of the year, but it's maybe dropped off a little bit. And Lawrence isn't leaving the door open as much as he was earlier in the year. Chase Sexton's gotten a little better. Eli Tomac's gotten a little bit better. I think if he doesn't grab that when it was there for him, you just never know if the opportunity is going to come again. So as great as it was then, I think it's even greater now, because no matter what happens from here on out, Aaron can always talk about, I won a 450 Supercross and I held the red plate. And with all the fans that he has, that still makes for an awesome season for him. But if we talk Cowboys, we got to talk about going to the home of the Dallas Cowboys. But it's not the Cowboy Plessinger who's the master of that. It's Cooper Webb. And I want to talk about two things here. Symbolically, the real moment is Webb winning Arlington. He's the all-time winner of that event, and he wins it in a Cooper Webb fashion. Jet crashes it away, and Cooper's strong late. But the whole year, right from the start, he beat Jet Lawrence straight up. Anaheim won, Heat Race won. That's been the year for Webb. He's not the points leader right now, but he's doing his job. He has really upped his game, I feel, in 2024.
Yeah, I think he's overperformed everyone's expectations. And then you take that and look at his stats specifically in Arlington. And this wasn't something I knew going in. You know, in our research leading up to the week, we kind of uncovered this. And of course, he goes ahead and makes good on it by winning another Arlington. So 6 wins there. That is a really impressive and I think underrated and underreported on stat going into this season. What a great run he's had in Texas.
All right, JT, we got to do it. We got to go there. Let's talk about the roller coaster ride of the phenom of the past who almost got it back, and the phenom of today who's almost thrown it away. The roller coaster ride, Forkner and Deegan. I don't even know where to go with this. There's so much to unpack.
Yeah, if you thought you were going to be able to predict how this 250E series was going to go, you certainly look foolish by now, because it's been anybody's guess. You know, Austin Forkner came out of nowhere. You know, this is a guy that's won a lot, but not in a very long time, and he looked like the guy to beat. He promptly exits the series on the way to his second win in a row, hands the win to Hayden Deegan. But then Hayden Deegan's been all over the place ever since, yelling at people, crashing in first turn, having his own issues in Daytona and qualifying. So to think that the way this looked leaving Detroit has changed so many times, and I'm not sure we're quite done yet, just because the way things look now, right after the Indianapolis round, we may not be thinking the same way come a few rounds from now. And where that all started was the chaos of that Detroit first turn crash. That's where all of this chaos, that's where the points really started to take shape. And you think about the rider now, Cameron McAdoo, who has the red plate, he was in 15th. And I think if he does end up winning this championship, it will be impossible to not look back on that race and his willingness to fight through adversity, pick his bike up off the ground and keep going. That might end up being the difference. The points he gained on that night in that first turn crash could be the difference.
Yeah, I hate to say that racing works that way, but there is a chance when this year ends that the 3 images that people will remember most are Anderson and Lawrence grabbing each other's helmets, the huge crash by Forkner, and that huge first turn crash in Detroit. That's how racing is defined. It's like our friend Ricky Carmichael says, you win your titles on your worst days, and how can you bounce back or mitigate the damage? And that leads us to number 1. There have been some bumps in the road. It has, as I said, not been perfect for Jet Lawrence in his first Supercross campaign like it was in Pro Motocross, but he has started to get it together and started to, dare I say, take over the sport of SMX.
Yeah, and the learning factor here, I think, is the most critical. You know, we all knew he could go fast. We all knew he could win, but when would he figure it out and be able to put all of his skills to use? And when would the mental aspect catch up with his incredible talent in 450 Supercross? Because the margins for error are so tight. If you make one mistake, it seems to snowball into a loss of huge points in Supercross. Where in motocross, you just have more time to figure things out. There's more space, there's more room, and he can be patient and let things play out. In Supercross, you have to make these split-second decisions, and you can really see him catching up to it. And it's a really scary time for everybody that is not a part of his program, because it's almost in real time we're watching it come to life. You can almost see him leveling up. And I'm scared it's going to get to a point where nobody has anything for him, because he's going to have seen every situation before and understand how to apply things to it, and then just rely on his incredible talent to bring him to the front. So be careful, buckle up, however you want to phrase it, whatever cliche you want to use here. We might be entering the Jet Lawrence era.
Yes, the first half of the year was dominated by us using the word parity, and now the second half dominated by us using the word pivotal, because I think everyone in that 450 field, both the racers and the observers, anyone involved knows what this looks like. If he starts getting on a roll like he's starting to build right now, this could pave the way for a long, long time. We've seen it happen in this sport before. Those other riders on the gate know that. They've got to strike back over this second half and maybe create more memorable moments for us to run down. And the cool thing is, those moments could come at any time. I think that's anything that we've learned in 2024. You never know, especially when you think of that Faulkner crash. It was looking so good until it wasn't. And we'll see how it goes, starting with the second half of the season this weekend in Seattle. As always, you can watch it on Peacock and the SMX Video Pass outside the United States. Don't miss the next moment when it comes.